up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Happy Friday. I am so excited about today's video. I am actually going to be kicking off my Finance Friday series. So basically from now on, every Friday I'm going to be posting a video purely about personal finance, whether I do a discussion, a deep dive, I can do a reactionary video, or I can do a Q&A. But anyway, I figured that I was gonna reserve Fridays to be my finance videos, and then my anti-MLM videos will probably come out, I don't know, maybe either Mondays or Tuesdays, and then I'll sprinkle in a lifestyle video every now and then. So for now, that's probably going to be my tentative upload schedule. If it changes, but that's what I've got in mind for right now. So I really wanted to kick off my Finance Friday series with a topic that I love talking with people about, which is, what is the worst piece of financial advice you've ever received? I asked all my followers on my different social medias, and people came through with some answers. So I pretty much compiled all the most popular answers, and I have my notes right here. So I'm just gonna kind of take you through all the different examples that were given to me, and I'm just gonna talk a little bit about them to kind of explain why that's bad advice, just in case you're not super familiar with certain terms, because even for finance people, stuff can get complicated. And really, this is just my way of helping you guys navigate your own personal finance journeys without getting caught up in some really bad stuff. So I really just want to have this as a resource for you guys so that you don't get stuck in these kinds of situations. So without further ado, let's get into it. On both Instagram and Facebook, what's the worst piece of financial advice you've ever received? And the number one answer across all the different platforms was joining an MLM for financial security. And I don't really feel like I need to dedicate too much time to this one, at least in this video. Just go up to the search bar and type in anti-MLM and you'll find out why. So the next piece of bad advice was, don't pay off your car early, just think of it as a monthly payment. So this one's actually a little bit of a double-edged sword with me, and I'll kind of explain why. So as a finance coach, I'm always going to advocate for you being able to pay off your debt early, whether you pay off your car early, or you pay off your mortgage early, or you just get out of credit card debt, you pay off your student loans on time, whatever the case may be. Paying off debt earlier than projected always feels great, and I will always advocate for it. However, there's a lot that there's something that comes with it that a lot of people aren't prepared for. I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of talk about FICO scores real quick, and I promise it'll just be a real quick thing. So for those of you who don't know what a FICO score is, your FICO score basically objectively shows lenders how trustworthy you are when it comes to paying back the money that they loan you, whether it's you charging something on a credit card or you're borrowing money to buy a house. Whatever the case may be, you are borrowing money and it is up to you to pay it back on time. So paying your bills on time can also affect your FICO score, but not as much as you think, and I'll get into that in just a second. So objectively speaking, having a lower score makes you a higher risk in the bank's eyes, and therefore in order to ensure that they get their money back on time, they're gonna slap a hefty interest rate on whatever money you take out. So it's kind of, it's not fair, but it's just how it works. But on the other hand, a higher score objectively means that you are more trustworthy, you're more likely to pay back on time and in full, without defaulting, without being late, whatever the case may be. So your goal is always to have a moderate to high score, because that means that you're going to score better interest rates than other people, and it's just, you kind of get rewarded for paying your bills on time and utilizing credit the correct way. So your FICO score is actually not just made up of paying bills on time. So there are actually 5 different categories that make up your FICO score, and that is credit mix, payment history, amounts owed, new credit, and length of credit history. So payment history is what I was talking about earlier. That just means that you are historically able to pay your debts on time. And seeing as it makes up about 35% of your FICO score, I would say it's pretty damn important, so pay your bills on time when you can. So the next one, amounts owed, or what we call credit utilization ratio, is how much of your credit limit are you using. So optimally, you only want to use about 30% of your credit utilization. So think about it this way. It would make sense for somebody who's really scared of getting a credit card because they don't know how disciplined they're going to be. It would make sense for them to take out a small secured credit card with maybe a $300 balance, so all they can use it for each month is gas and groceries. That way, you know, you're not putting the option on the table to overspend, to dig yourself a hole. It makes sense, but that actually hurts you a lot more in the long run, because if you have a lower balance, that means you're going to use more of your credit, and therefore the banks are going to be like, uh-oh. So for me, I opened my first credit card when I was 26, 2 years ago in 2019. And the starting balance was $3,000. And I was like, they're going to give me $3,000? I almost called the bank to have that lowered because I didn't want a $3,000 balance because I didn't know how disciplined I was going to be with it. But that actually works out in my favor because as long as I stay under that 30% credit utilization, which in my case would be $900, but I'm not spending $900 a month, that's fine. And as long as I'm able to pay it off. So I only use my credit card when I know I have the cash for either gas or groceries, and then I pay it off on time. So basically the lower balance is not always the best way to go because it makes you look like you're using more credit, which makes you look riskier to banks. So length of credit history is actually pretty simple. It takes into account the oldest account that you have and the newest account, and it averages those together. So for instance, if you took out a credit card for Victoria's Secret when you were 18, all the way up to you mortgaged a house and you had to finance some furniture for it, or the car you bought when you were 22. So length of credit history would account for that credit card and your mortgage, and it would just average those together and anything else in between. So credit mix doesn't actually account for as much, coming in at a whopping 10%, but all it refers to is just your variety of debt. So again, that retail credit card, that bank credit card, the mortgage, the car loan. So whatever the case may be for you, that's all that is. And then lastly, new credit, which also accounts for 10%, basically talks about how many times are you doing hard inquiries in order to open another credit account in your name. So if you're constantly looking to open credit cards, you're doing hard inquiries, those are sent to the credit bureaus, and that basically tells the banks, whoa, you are trying to borrow way more money than you're ready for. So don't do a lot of hard inquiries because the banks will pump the brakes and they'll give you interest. So that's a brief overview of the FICO score. So let me explain how all of that fits into this situation. So earlier we were talking about that credit utilization ratio. So when you pay off your car or your card or your mortgage, whatever, and you close that account, that skews that credit utilization ratio to make it look like you're borrowing more money when in reality you're not. So unfortunately, your credit score is going to drop a little bit. So again, I'm going to use myself as an example. When I paid off my car, my score plummeted about 60 points in the subsequent 2 months, and I was really confused and upset. It almost made me feel like my hard work wasn't worth it. That's just a natural part of the process of paying off debt. So don't let that discourage you from paying it off early. Just be ready for your credit score to take a small hit, but as long as you pay the rest of your bills on time, just keep doing that, that credit score will go back up. All right, so the next piece of bad advice that I got was to consolidate medical debt onto credit cards. Not just one credit card, credit cards. So first off, and let me say that as a financial coach, I do not work with consolidation of any kind in any capacity because that is a very tricky field, and I'll kind of explain why. So consolidating debt can work for some people, but it has to be done very carefully, and every option and potential outcome has to be meticulously considered because consolidating can go very wrong, and if that's the case, you could be doing damage control for many years afterwards. So let me kind of explain why consolidating debt onto a credit card is a bad idea. So the biggest reason I have for not consolidating medical debt onto credit cards is what happens afterwards. The medical debt is now changed to regular debt, which means that it can accrue that interest of whatever credit card it's on. It will get reported to the credit bureaus, therefore dropping your credit score. But medical debt can be negotiated to an extent. You can call up your hospital or your doctor's office and they can work with you. Like, you can negotiate a little bit. One popular way I've seen people do that is they'll call whatever institution they were at and they'll ask for what's called an itemized bill. And that basically will list all the charges that they made in order to care for you. And some institutions, depending on how nonsensical the charges can be, they'll take that opportunity to take some of those charges off, like $55 for Tylenol, $150 for a blanket. You know, some of those garbage charges, yeah, those could come off. Now, it's not a guarantee that it'll work, but it is an option that you can explore. You just have to do some research. You just have to find out what the policies are. And the worst case scenario.
Hey friends, Editing Cat here. So for some reason my camera did not record the last bit of that section. All I was trying to say was that while I can't guarantee it'll work to call whatever institution, it does not hurt to try. You know, the worst thing they can say is no. So again, I'm not going to guarantee that it will work, but it does not hurt to try. carry on.
So the next worst piece of advice that I got is going into old age assuming that your children will take care of you. And I'm actually going to call on some previous experience I have as a home health caregiver to kind of back up what I have to say on this. Yes, I do agree with that. You cannot go into retirement, you cannot go into old age thinking that your children are just happily going to want to pick up the burden, move in and take care of you, especially if you have no desire to go into assisted living or you don't feel like going to physical therapy. There are some stubborn people out there, I'm just gonna say. So as a home health caregiver, I had to personally witness the toll that caregiving can take on people, especially if you're caring for your parent. The relationship is completely changed. Sometimes it can get strained, and depending on the situation, it can really ruin relationships. In fact, I remember I had a client and I spoke with her daughter. She said that she had to sell her own personal lake house in Alabama and liquidate all of mom's assets in order to pay for home care because she refused to go into assisted living. She could no longer live on her own because she had declined physically and cognitively so badly. And it's just so sad to me that, you work so hard all your life and in an instant, it's all gone. Another client kind of got blindsided. So her children lived in Georgia, but she lived further up north. So the children were getting more and more calls from the neighbors and the police saying that she had fallen and that she wasn't hurt, that she had just fallen. And they came to a decision that she couldn't live on her own anymore. But she just had declined so cognitively that they kind of sold her house behind her back and moved her in with the daughter who had the power of attorney. And I spoke with the daughter and she said, I don't think she'll ever forgive us. And unfortunately she didn't. She died a week later. So these are just the kinds of situations that I saw myself in my home care job, and I would hate for any of you to have to deal with that, whether you become your parents' caregiver or you now rely on your children to take care of you. Which, by the way, I'm going to stop here and say, if you are assuming the role of caregiver for your parents and you're exhausted, you're drained, and it's overwhelming, just know I see you. I see the sacrifices that you're making. You are doing wonderful work. I promise you. They may not see it, you may not see it, but I see it, and I promise you are appreciated. And that's pretty much what I have to say about that. So please open a 401k at work if your work provides one, and if they sponsor, they match, contribute so that you don't have to end up liquidating your assets when you're old in order to pay for care. So the next piece of bad advice is to obtain financing through the car dealership. And I actually reached out to my friend Seth Godwin for this one. He's wonderful. Please go give him a follow. I will link him in the description below. So I called on him to kind of break it down for me. And the short answer of it is that the car dealership has partnerships with all the different banks that they offer loans with. Basically, the car dealership will be the most expensive way to take out the money for the car. So of course they want you to obtain financing through the dealership. They'll make the most money off of it. So if they offer that as an option, say no, say you would like to finance elsewhere. All right, so the next piece of bad advice is buying a practically brand new car as your first car. So I 100% don't recommend buying brand new in general. So I'm certainly not here to tell you what to do, but objectively, buying a car that's practically brand new is a bad idea, and I'll kind of explain why. And I know what you're gonna say, but I can afford the monthly payments, why shouldn't I? Of course they want you to afford the monthly payments, because in that case, they're gonna give you the worst loan ever with the lowest monthly payment so that you're paying a lot longer. So it has to even out somewhere. Either you're making massive monthly payments, but the loan isn't for as long, or you have low payments, but you're paying for a long time. And in this case, the dealership is gonna find you the worst loan with the worst interest rate, because chances are you're walking into this dealership pretty young with not the best credit score. So they're going to give you the worst loan with the highest interest rate, and you may be making those monthly payments that you can afford for years. I mean, I've seen car dealerships offer as much as 9-year loans, which is a crime. I should not be paying on a car for almost a decade just to afford the monthly payments. Please don't buy brand new. Typically, I try to stay within 3 to 5 years old because the depreciation has already happened, and assuming that the person took care of it, it's still in great condition. Again, just be smart about the decision. Don't make the choice based on whether you can afford the monthly payments or not, because that's how they get you. Because if you take out that kind of loan, you could pay thousands of dollars in interest, therefore paying way more than the car is worth. So just stick with gently pre-used and you'll be good to go. All right, so the next piece of bad advice is go in debt to go to college. So here's what I have to say about college. As a college grad from an amazing school, I will always advocate going to college, especially if you've never been out of your hometown. It's a great way to get away, see new places, meet new friends, learn lots of new things, and build your network for people that you will have to call on later in life. Make nice with your professors. You may need their letters of recommendation later on in life. So yes, I went to college and I had a really great experience. I'm very privileged that my parents were able to pay for the first 4 years of school. I paid for my last, and I wouldn't take back any of my experiences, good or bad, but if I had to do it all over again, I would do things differently. I wouldn't have gone straight to college. I probably would have gone to community college. I would have taken gen ed courses just to make sure that I did still want to be a teacher. They would be cheaper, I could still work. So here's what I have to say as somebody who went to college. College isn't for everybody. And that's not to say that some people are smart and some people are stupid. I'm just saying that different people thrive in different academic or professional environments. Some people are not meant to sit in classrooms and participate in group discussions, reading books, writing book reviews, taking exams, learning computer skills. Some people want to go to trade school and learn to work with their hands. I mean, Travis really wants to go to trade school, and so we're figuring out a way to save up for that. Some people don't even go to college and they're doing just fine. They entered the workforce and they built themselves up a professional career, and some of them might be considering going back to school, and some are pretty happy still not in school. So while I will advocate going to college to learn new things, get new experiences, meet new people, you don't have to go into debt to do that. There are cheaper ways and there are non-conventional ways to get higher ed learning. So don't bank on college just because your parents tell you to go to college. I'm not saying go walk up to your parents and say, I'm not going to college, but just ask them to sit down and talk with you and weigh your options. So the next piece of bad advice was only one person, and it was my aunt, and she said that she was advised to buy an already expensive condo with no money down, and she got two different mortgages, a 20 and an 80, 2 years before the market crash. Okay, so first of all, to address the timing before the crash, there's a whole lot that goes into when the market is going to crash. So there's no real point that people can say, like, today the market's going to crash. Like last year, right before the panini started, we had no idea that the market was going to plummet, 10,000 points in one day? Nobody saw that coming. So no, we can't always exactly pinpoint when the market is gonna crash, and I'll probably go into more detail about the crash. I'll probably do a deep dive on another finance video, but for now I'm just gonna talk about this specific situation. So I actually called on my friend Nate for this one. He's right here. He is known as Mortgages Are Boring all over social media. I'll link him below too. He's another fellow finance creator who's awesome and a great resource, especially if you are thinking about buying a house. Please hit him up. He is full of information. So essentially what Nate told me is that in this situation, my aunt was advised to take out two separate mortgages, one of which was going to cover 80% of the purchase price, and the other one was going to cover 20%, the remaining gap. It seems like a good idea in theory, but all that ends up happening is that you're overextending yourself and you are paying out the butt for interest. And that, along with different subprime mortgages that were issued out to people, this type of reckless selling on the lender's part, stuff like that is what led to the 2008 crash. But again, I'll go into more detail on another video. I'll probably bring in a whole panel of fellow finance creators. It'll be great. So another great resource for learning about the 2008 crash is actually the movie The Big Short. I highly recommend it. It's got Steve Carell in it, so go watch it. For this next piece of bad advice, I actually called on my brother-in-law, and he said that owning your own business is the golden ticket to success. And as a fellow business owner, I 100% agree. So yes, while in the long run, owning your own business and being your own boss could work out better financially for you, because maybe you're able to stake more and you're just able to bring in money in different ways, but it is not your lottery ticket to being rich. For instance, I had 1 month last year where I barely broke even. So it takes a long time for you to start getting into those months where you're actually making a profit. And for different businesses and different industries, that can take longer. So no, I would not bank on starting your own business as a way to get rich. I would say starting your own business should be just a way for you to think outside the box. You know what I'm saying? And the last worst piece of financial advice that I got was that success equals wealth. So yes and no. I agree and I disagree with that. So different people are going to have different definitions of success, but in this case, we're talking about wealth as a form of success. So what does wealth mean to you? For me, I used to want a big mansion, like a big modern farmhouse mansion with a huge walk-in closet that would have my laundry unit, and it would just be filled wall to wall with designer clothes and designer shoes and bags. Shout out to It Works Global for encouraging rampant materialism. But now that I've had my time in my personal finance journey and as a finance coach, I no longer attribute that to being successful. My way of being successful is that I am able to give back, whether it's financially or with my time, and I could walk away from a job and go on vacation with my family for a month and be able to come back and not have to worry about how my bills are paid. In fact, in a perfect world, my bills will continue to get paid, and my bills will have been paid while I was on vacation. So I don't know what your definition of success is, but I will say that there is a very big difference between being rich and being wealthy, and I hope that you would want to choose to be wealthy, because wealthy can also mean with time and memories, not just money. So anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed listening to these different pieces of financial advice. I know that I enjoyed doing this, and I really hope that Finance Friday is a good resource for all of you. I hope to have a nice bingeable playlist maybe here in a couple of months. So if you did like this video, go ahead and leave a like, maybe comment, help a girl out, try to help me get in on the algorithm. And if you're not following me on social media, like I said, I will have all my links below, and I will also link all of my sources in the description below so that you can read all of them for yourself. But anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I will see you in the next anti-MLM video, and I love you all. Bye.